Hi there, my name is Joel Friedrich. I'm an associate professor at AIU in the EAP English for Academics program here at the campus. And welcome today to this on-demand lecture and lesson for our open campus event. The topic of my talk today is going to be Hope is the Thing with Feathers, How Metaphors Make Meaning. I want you to know that this is going to be an interactive video, which means basically that I'm going to ask you to stop the video, pause the video a few times in order to do some things. There are some exercises and activities that I would like you to actually engage in the middle of this video, because this lesson is about writing and reading and listening. So you will have to do those things. Those things, writing and reading, listening and speaking, are skills that are core, central, fundamental to the EAP program at AIU. So I thought we'd practice them a little bit. There's a picture of me. The topic that we're going to be working on today is metaphors. And so the little description I have here is how every day in our lives, we are constantly thinking, all the time, thinking. Most of the time, our thoughts focus on abstract ideas, abstractions, abstract emotions, such as happy, tired. Are you tired right now? Are you nervous? Are you excited? Those words, happy, tired, nervous, excited, those are abstractions. They're not real things in the world, like paper, pencil, or a cell phone. So sometimes we want to make our ideas more real by using a metaphor, because our bodies experience life through touch, taste, smell, sight, sound. Those are sensory objects. And so sometimes we want to make a comparison between an abstract idea and a physical thing that can be seen, touched, smelled. So for example, we might say love is a rose. An emotion like love, L-O-V-E, can be compared to a rose, a flower that we can see, smell, touch. So love is a rose is a metaphor, comparing an abstract idea to a thing, an object in the world that we can touch or taste, smell, see. This is a picture of my class actually writing metaphors, working on writing their own metaphors. So here's a warm-up activity. I'm going to actually ask you to do this on a piece of paper. Okay, I'll show you a piece of paper, a little piece of paper right there. Take out a piece of paper and something to write with. And I'd like you to write down the word love, L-O-V-E. And then underneath that word, I'd like you to make a list of things that can be touched, that can be seen with our eyes, or smelled, or heard, or tasted. They have to be real things that can represent love. And you can't use the word rose. You can't use the word rose. And I'd like you to not use any flowers. Let's not use any flowers at all. It has to be a thing that you can touch, taste, smell, or hear, but it can't be a flower. Go ahead, pause the video now and make a list. Okay, I hope you made a list. I hope you already did that. If you didn't, pause the video and make that list, and don't start it again until you've written down a list of things that can be touched or tasted that could represent love for you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you. Here's a list. These were made this list was made by my students when I taught this lesson in real life. So rose was the basic idea. Love is a rose, but somebody wrote love is a tomato. Think about that. How is love like a tomato? I thought that was a really interesting one. Tomatoes are soft and red. They are delicious to eat. You want to feel them. They are smooth. So you can think about, how is love like a tomato? One way that a love is like a tomato is tomatoes are very fragile. If you touch them too strongly, guess what happens? They can be smashed or squished. They can break easily. I especially like this one with the hand in there. So love is like a tomato because you have to be careful. You can't hold it too hard or it will break. So I really like that one. Love is a tomato. Love is music, right? It can be soft, it can be fast, it can be slow. Love is a strawberry. Think about how love could be a strawberry. Love is a pencil. A pencil lets you express yourself. It lets you communicate. So love is a pencil. Here's a nice one. Love is a roller coaster. I thought this was another nice one to look at. Love is a roller coaster. You can go up and down. It can spin you around. It can make you dizzy. It can go fast. It can go slow. It can make your heart beat very fast. Boom, 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 boom. All the ways that love is a roller coaster, a wild ride. You can see love is the sun. It spreads light in your life. The sun is outside my window there right now. You can say love brings light like a roller coaster, or like the sun. Love brings light and makes things grow like these plants. Love is a photo, a memory, a picture of a time long ago. These are all the ways that you could write down what love is. Hey, I'm going to give you one more chance. If you didn't make your own list yet, please stop the video and write down some words of your own that love can be like. And remember, they have to be physical objects in the world, something you can see, hear, touch, taste, or smell. So last chance to write down your own list. I hope you did it. I hope you are using the pause button on the video and actually participating in this lecture, in this lesson. So I would like to do a little bit of reading today and some listening and some writing. Okay, are you ready? So we're going to be reading a poem by a famous American author whose name was Emily Dickinson. She lived quite a while ago. You can see 1830 to 1886. That's a picture of her. She was not famous at all during her lifetime. She was not known. No one knew who she was while she was alive. But shortly after she died, her poems started to become very famous. And right now, she is one of the most famous American poets from the 1800s. And she wrote in ways that were very different than other people. She did not use the normal or standard way of describing things in her poems. Here is one of her poems called Hope is a Thing with Feathers. And the reason I want to focus on this poem is it has a very strong metaphor. It takes an abstract idea, hope, and it compares it to a thing with feathers, okay? A bird. A thing with feathers is a bird. So throughout the whole poem, Emily Dickinson is basically saying, hope is a bird. And she wants to tell us, make us feel a lot of different ways that hope is like a bird. So let me read it, and I'll read it more than once, but just listen to the first time I read it. Hope is the thing with feathers. that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Let me explain a few of the vocabulary words that might not be familiar. Okay, perches. To perch is the way that a bird sits. It takes its claws and grabs onto a branch in a tree. It perches in the soul. A tune, is a song. I think you know that word. A tune is a song. A gale is a very strong and violent wind, a storm, okay? Something like a typhoon that could blow down buildings. Sore, this word sore, and sore must be the storm. It means hard, harsh, strong. Abash, that could abash the little bird. It makes someone feel ashamed or bruised, hurts. You could just say hurts, that could hurt the little bird. Chillest, here in this line. I've heard it in the chillest land, a cold place like Antarctica. Extremity, the furthest limit of difficulty, the harshest and hardest time that you can imagine. Crumb, a small bit of food, a small piece of something good. So just to go through the poem and explain it a little bit, it's saying hope is like a bird that perches inside myself, in my soul, and it sings a tune without words. You know the way a bird does. There are no words. It's just playing music. It's just singing music, and it never stops. Especially in the harshest weather, in a terrible storm, it sounds the sweetest. When life is difficult, it sounds the sweetest. And the storm must be the very worst one you could imagine that would make this little bird be quiet, that could make it feel ashamed or make it stop singing. And this song from the little bird never stops, and it keeps so many people warm and comfortable, even in a hard time. Even when I am in a very cold and distant land, like as far away from home as I could be, in a very strange place, even when my life is the hardest it can be, it never wants me to give it anything. I never have to pay it or return a favor or give it a gift. It just keeps on making me feel better and better. And that's what hope is. So that's my explanation of the poem Hope is a Thing with Feathers. I hope you could understand it okay. Hope frees us from despair and gives us strength to continue living, even when we don't give it anything, even when we are in the hardest, harshest place. It's interesting that the poem is talking about being in storms and being far away. During Emily Dickinson's time in the 1800s, people were sailing in ships all over the world, especially people from her part of the world in America. Many, many people were sailing far away in ships. And so she uses some ideas of sailing ships to talk about people who have gone far away from home and that they are suffering because of that. And hope is like a bird that gives those people comfort and eases their pain and suffering when they are far away from home. So here are some questions for you. For the first stanza, why do you think the author chose to describe hope as a bird? Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. So stop the video and maybe write down 1 or 2 sentences. Why do you think the author describes hope as a bird? Well, I hope you finished. What I think is that she believes that a bird can give hope because it's a small thing that has a large effect. A small thing, think about how small a bird is, and then think about how large the effect of a bird's singing is. When we hear a bird singing, even though a bird is small, it makes people feel very, very good and has a large effect, a small thing that has a very big impact or effect on us. Now, here's another question. What does it mean to say that even during storms, hope keeps singing? Even during storms, hope keeps singing. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. What does it mean to say that even during storms, hope keeps singing? So please stop the video and take just a minute or two and write down a sentence of your own idea. What does it mean that even during a storm, hope keeps singing? I hope you did write down a sentence or two about that. What I think is that it means that because a bird is so small and hope is so small, that it's easy for a bird like that to escape from a storm. It can hide and not be affected by the storm. We can keep it inside our heart or inside our soul. And because it is so small, it can be protected and it's able to keep singing despite the big storm around us. Okay, here's a third question for you. What does it mean to say that hope never asked a crumb of me? I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. What does this stanza mean when it says hope never asked a crumb of me? Pause the video, please write a sentence about that, and then start it up again. Well, I do hope you wrote a sentence with your own idea about that. I think it means that a bird has so much strength, hope has so much strength that it doesn't need to be fed, that it doesn't need us to give gifts or presents or pay it, that it has its own power and its own strength that is greater than our own. So it will keep on singing and giving us hope, even when we don't need, even without us needing to give it anything. So those are my ideas, and I hope you also stop to write down your own ideas about the meaning for each of these 3 stanzas. Okay, each of these small parts of the poem, by the way, are called a stanza. That's an Italian word that just means a verse. One part of a song or a poem is called a stanza. All right, let's go on to listening to the poem. All right, I'm going to read this poem out twice, and I'm going to do it in very different ways. Okay, so listen to the way I read it, and I'd like you to, after I get finished reading it, stop the video again and write down one word that describes the feeling or emotion that I'm trying to capture. Are you ready? Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. So stop the video and write down one word that captures the emotion or feeling of the way I was reading it. And you can't write the word hope. Okay, you can't write the word hope. So what word captures the style of my reading? I hope you could see my face too. That might have helped you. So stop the video and write down one word. Okay. I think you could have written the word excitement or energy or happiness, um, a positive feeling. All right. Well, now I'm going to do it again, and this time I'm going to do it very differently. See if you can catch a different feeling that I'm using. Okay. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in my soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. Oh, I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. I tried to read it very differently. Pause the video and write down one word that describes the emotion or feeling of the way I read it this time. Okay, I hope you wrote a word that might be something like sad or despair or exhaustion, tired. I was trying to read it with the opposite feeling from the first time. So I would like you to try it yourself now. Please try reading the poem out loud for yourself 2 times and see if you can read it with completely different feelings or emotion each time. One time when you say it out loud, read it faster with more energy and a higher. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul. And then try it again, reading it more slowly with a different feeling. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul. Try it 2 different ways. Okay, pause the video right now and try reading it twice with 2 very different feelings. Go. All right. I hope you did that. If you are not pausing the video and doing things, then you're cheating. You should be stopping this video a lot in order to try out the ideas that we're talking about, okay? And now here's the last part of today's lesson. I would like you to do some writing, okay? You need to do some writing. We're going to try writing your own metaphor. So you're going to invent your own metaphor, very similar to the first stanza of Emily Dickinson's poem. Again, the first stanza is this one. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. We're going to actually take away these words. All right. Let me show you which words we're going to take away from the poem so that you can fill in your own words and be creative so that you can be a writer and create your own metaphor. Just a few of the words that we're going to take away so that you can become a writer yourself. We're going to take away these words. Blank is the thing with blank that blanks in the soul and blank, 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 and never stops at all. This is what it looks like. Blank is a thing with blank that blanks in the soul and blank, 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 and never stops at all. I'm going to ask you to choose your own words. An abstraction is a thing with a body part that verbs in the soul and describe an action there. Here's an example. Instead of hope, we could say anger, a different abstraction. Anger is a thing with, and instead of feathers, we could say claws, a body part. Anger is a thing with claws. I hope you can tell why this metaphor might work okay. Anger is a violent and negative emotion, and so I thought of claws, you know, like a tiger or a cat. Claws can be very violent. Anger is a thing with claws that rages in the soul. That's a verb. What would claws do? It would rage in the soul. And finally, this is the hard part. What would be an action that this could take? And rips up all my strength and never stops at all. Anger is a thing with claws that rages in the soul and rips up all my strength and never stops at all. So I gave you some ideas here. I wanted you to get some ideas. So you need to choose an abstraction for number 1. Hope, anger, love, fear, stress, joy, happiness, excitement, exhaustion. So think of any kind of abstract feeling or emotion. And that's what you got to write for number 1. Number 2, think of a body part that could fit with that emotion. Claws, teeth, eyes, feathers, beaks, scales, tongues, toes, tail, noses, snout. Or you could go with plants, leaves, flowers, petals. For example, fear is a thing with leaves. Fear is a thing with leaves that, what would it do? Grows in the soul. I'm just trying to make up examples. Here are some verbs. Perches, rips, chews, eats, runs, jumps, climbs, clings, grips, grabs, hugs, purrs. Let me try another one here. Joy is a thing with fur that purrs in the soul. And we need an action. Sings a tune, says your name, flies into the stars. So there are 4 things that you need to think of. 1, 2, 3, 4 in order to write this little poem and give your own, try it for yourself to become a writer who can use a metaphor. Here's some more examples. Knowledge is a thing with ears. How about that? That listens in the soul. I gotta think of something for this. Can you? Knowledge is a thing with ears that listens in the soul and remembers all the words and never stops at all. That's not bad. It could be better. Desire is a thing with fingers. Oops, I wanted to capitalize that. Fingers. That, what could fingers do? That reaches in the soul and gathers all the money and never stops at all. I'm just thinking about what desire could do. Desire is a thing with fingers that reaches in the soul and gathers all the coins and never stops at all. I like that one a little bit better than the other one I had, that gathers in the coins, that reaches in the soul and gathers up all the coins, all the money, and never stops at all. Okay, so it's your turn. You have to try this. Can you fill in these blanks? Something is a thing with something, that something's in the soul, and something, 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 and never stops at all. I hope you understand what you need to do. And then I really want you to email me what you write. Even if you can only write a couple of lines, maybe you can only write the first 2 lines and you can't finish it. That's okay. Give it a try and send me anything that you can come up with for your writing. Please email it to me at this address, jfriedrich, jfriederich at aiu.ac.jp. I would really like to get this email from you. I really would, and I will answer it so that I can know you watched this video and you tried to write your own little poem like these with a metaphor. Okay, thank you for listening today. Thank you for coming to our open campus, and I really hope that I can see you at AIU next year or soon. Bye-bye.